It looks like 2021 will be the year of the EV. Mazda has just pulled the covers off of the brand's very first electric vehicle. Now, some of you may be a little bit disappointed to hear that it's going to be available only in California, at least from the beginning. Mazda has not said whether this will be available in any other state in the US, but I suspect that over time, perhaps next year in 2022, they will expand availability out to other states. They're calling their new EV the MX-30, and size-wise, this appears to be pretty similar to the CX-30 in their lineup. As you can see, the MX-30 is going to be sort of crossover meets hatchback in terms of its general form. It has a hatch in the rear, and it definitely looks a little bit like the CX-30, but upon closer inspection, this has rear doors that are suicide doors. So you have to open the front door first, and then the smaller rear door opens sideways. Let's scroll through some of the photos here. It has the same sort of design language that we find in the rest of the Mazda lineup, but a really slim front grille. I have to say, Mazda has done an excellent job styling the MX-30. This looks like a really, really attractive electric vehicle. It's a little bit difficult to tell in Mazda's photos, but it does look like this is going to have a full glass roof like we find in a number of other EVs. That's likely going to help improve headroom on the inside. And again, this is going to be sized a little bit closer to the CX-30 than the CX-5 in Mazda's lineup, it appears. On the inside, Mazda is making extensive use of eco-friendly materials, including a lot of cork on the interior. So when you take a look at the center console picture that's on your screen right now, the bottom of that center console area is cork because it's a renewable resource. We also have some really interesting fabric textures, and the rest of the dashboard looks very much like the other Mazdas in America at the moment. They haven't given us too much detail, unfortunately, so no forward-facing shots of the bulk of the dashboard there, but from some of the other pictures that they've provided, it definitely looks an awful lot like the CX-30. We're going to have the same sort of infotainment screen on the dashboard and the same infotainment controller that we find in the CX-30 and the new Mazda 3. Now let's dive into some of the details, because you're probably wondering what's the range, what's the power, etc. Well, unfortunately, I don't have an official range figure from Mazda just yet, but we know this is going to use a 35.5 kilowatt-hour battery pack. That is on the small side for a launch of a new EV right now in North America. So my expectation is that the range will be somewhere between 100 and say 120 miles. Assuming that this is about as efficient as the average EV that I've tested here at Alex & Autos, about 3 to 3.5 miles per kilowatt-hour, it should be in that range. Mazda tends to be a very pragmatic company when it comes to engineering and design, and that's probably the reason that they've decided to give us a lower range EV first. A lot of folks out there will be just fine with the 100-mile range, and if you need more range, Mazda says that they're going to have a hybrid solution coming soon, but it's going to be a little bit different. It's going to be sort of a Mazda interpretation of what BMW did with the i3. It's going to have a rotary engine and a range extender unit, so you'll still be driving the wheels with the electric motors. It will feel like an electric car, but when the battery is exhausted, they haven't given any details about the size of that battery just yet, or the output from the rotary hybrid system, the rotary engine would kick on, start generating power, and then shuttle that over to the motors and the battery. According to the press release, the MX-30 will be available in California later this fall, so sometime around September, October, probably in 2021. No comment about availability of the range-extending rotary engine. On the other hand, we do know motor specifications. The motor will be located in the front. It's going to be a front-wheel drive EV, and it's going to give us 144 horsepower and 200 pound-feet of torque. Mazda has not commented on whether an all-wheel drive system will be available just yet, but I suspect that with these range figures, it doesn't make too much sense to add that extra weight for a vehicle that's going to be on sale primarily in California. Mazda is supporting the CCS standard for DC fast charging. That's the largest and the fastest growing fast charging standard in the US right now. They say, according to the spec sheet, that it will charge at a rate of 50 kilowatts, which will take the battery to 80% in about 36 minutes. You'll notice that is going to be slower than some of the new EVs that we're going to be seeing later this year and early next year. Remember that DC fast charge speed is largely a function of the number of cells and the total pack capacity as well. So this battery pack is about half the size of the battery that we find in the Volkswagen ID.4, and about 1/3 the size of the largest battery pack available in modern Teslas or the Ford Mustang Mach-E. So it's sensible that the battery pack is going to charge a little bit more slowly. Mazda has not commented on how fast the onboard charger is, but I suspect that most folks won't have a problem at all charging at the office or charging at home, getting the battery up to a usable capacity for the return journey home. Rather unfortunately, Mazda has not released any detailed spec sheets on the MX-30 yet, so I don't know exactly how large it is on the outside or how big the cargo area is, but it appears to be pretty generous and it appears to have a flat cargo floor. I have to say the MX-30 looks really, really good. I love the fact that they've given this the same design language that we find in the rest of the Mazda lineup with the really clean aesthetic up front. I really think that the Mazda grille works especially well in this MX-30. One thing that Mazda does extraordinarily well is exterior design. Like I'm sure many of you are, I'm a little bit disappointed that the battery pack isn't a little bit bigger. 35.5 kilowatt hours is definitely usable. I actually had an EV with a 28 kilowatt hour battery pack once that had an EV range of under 100 miles, and that was almost good enough for me. I ended up finding that if it had 120 or perhaps 130 miles, that would have been ideal. So I think the MX-30 is really, really close to what I would prefer out of a new EV. Now, on my daily commute, which involves going up and over a 2,200-foot mountain pass, it's about 28 miles each direction, the MX-30 would be absolutely fine in that environment. And the average American doesn't really commute very far daily, so the MX-30 is a very pragmatic, very rational vehicle. And if you want to go those longer distances, then theoretically there's going to be the range extending option. I'm really intrigued to see what that's like, because I'm surprised that not too many manufacturers have this kind of option in North America at the moment. Infiniti and Nissan have definitely been promising a similar system, and of course we have the BMW i3 available in America, but nothing that is as attractive as the MX-30 and seemingly as practical as the MX-30 as well. Be sure and let me know what you think about all that down there in the comment section below, and stay tuned because hopefully I will be able to bring you more details on the MX-30 just as soon as Mazda releases them. I'll see all of you later.